A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus proposed a parable to the crowds. The kingdom of heaven may be likened to a man who sowed good seed in his field. While everyone was asleep, his enemy came and sowed weeds all through the wheat, and then went off. When the crop grew and bore fruit, the weeds appeared as well. The slaves of the householder came to him and said, "Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? Where have the weeds come from?" He answered, "An enemy has done this." His slave said to him, "Do you want us to go and pull them up?" He replied, "No. If you pull up the weeds, you might uproot the wheat along with them. Let them grow together until harvest. Then at harvest time I will say to the harvesters, first collect the weeds and tie them in bundles for burning, but gather the wheat into my barn." The Gospel of the Lord. In yesterday's reading from Exodus, God gave Moses the 10 Commandments. And in today's reading from Exodus, Moses reads those commandments to the people, and he kind of asks them, says, "Are you going to follow these?" And to a man, everybody says, "We're going to follow those commandments." And then they seal the deal. They make it a bond, a covenant, a family bond with God. And they do it by the sacrifice of a bull. And they sprinkle half the blood on the altar, which is God's end of the deal, and they sprinkle the blood on the people, the other half of the blood, and which seals the deal on the people. And that was the covenant that God made with Moses. Now, it was an external covenant. That blood was sprinkled on the outside of the people. And in the letter to the Hebrews, it talks about that the blood of bulls is just not strong enough for a permanent, everlasting covenant with God. It's it's a fragile covenant. And the people within weeks had already broken the promises they made with God in the new covenant in Exodus. And then so they broke the promises and the covenant, and so it was it didn't last. And so, but what was really good about it, that covenant, is that it prefigured the new covenant, the everlasting covenant, the covenant that Jesus established for us. And at the Last Supper, Jesus picked up on the words of Moses and continued on. And listen, he says. This is from Matthew's Gospel. It says, "Drink from it, all of you, for this is the blood of the covenant." And he's talking about his own blood. So it's something internal now, not something sprinkled on the outside. "Drink from it, all of you, for this is the blood of the covenant, which will be shed on my behalf, on behalf of many, for the forgiveness of sins." And so this new covenant is sealed with Jesus' death, and it's much, much stronger than the old covenant. In other words, it has the power in this new covenant to save us. In the old covenant, we didn't have the Spirit to where people could, it would grow and help them keep the covenant. But in the new covenant, we do. We have the Spirit of God living within us. And so that strong bond that Jesus has with us in the new covenant, it's super strong. I was trying to think last night of an analogy. I'm laying in bed. What's a good analogy? I'm thinking maybe like magnets, being pulled together or pulled toward God. I said, that's just not strong enough. And this morning it came to me, I said, well, it's like a tractor beam. It's like these science fiction movies you see, and spaceships flying by some planet, and they put a tractor beam on it and just pull it in. And so the bond that we have with God in the new covenant is more like a tractor beam, because His Spirit is living inside us. And just like in the Old Covenant, God gave the people the commands, those 10 commandments to follow. In the New Covenant, Jesus gives us a command, love one another as I have loved you. But he also gives us the power to do it, to love one another the way he has loved us. And that power comes through the Spirit living inside of us. It's an internal thing. So at baptism, we receive the Holy Spirit. At confirmation, we receive the fullness of the Holy Spirit. Every time we receive the sacraments, the Eucharist, we take the Spirit within us. Jesus comes and lives within us. And so it's that power of God living in us being transformed into a person like Jesus, that gives us the strength to then do that, to live the laws that he gives us. And we know that we need that strength. We need that tractor beam bringing us toward God, because in our gospel, there's an enemy out there. And just as God plants the seed in us, his word in us, and it grows in us, the goodness grows in us, there's an evil one out there planting bad seed and evil that's trying to get us to. And so today, I was thinking, what's a good wrap-up? And I said, we should just rejoice today. Today's a day where we should be thankful for this permanent covenant that God has established with us, that his life living inside of us, it should just give us joy. So today we should just celebrate with this incredible gift that God has given us.